If these train stations really were built in the 1800s, then we may be misunderstanding what that century could actually construct. And if they weren't, then the question isn't only how, it's when. In the photograph, the people look like an afterthought. A row of men in dark coats stands at the base of a massive station facade. They're there for scale, whether they meant to be or not. Above them, the entrance arch rises high enough to swallow a house. The stone blocks look uniform. The columns look finished, not rough. And behind the arch, the interior ceiling appears to vault upward like a civic cathedral. The caption says it's a new station, late 1800s. But the contradiction is quiet and hard to shake. If this was truly a fresh build from that era, why does it already look ancient, overbuilt, and strangely effortless? The official explanation is familiar. Rail stations were the pride of expanding nations. Cities wanted monuments, not sheds. Wealth, immigration, and industry demanded large terminals. Engineers used brick and stone because steel was expensive and labor was cheap. It was a time of grand public works. That explanation accounts for some things, but not this. What's missing here is process. Where are the intermediate stages that match what we're seeing? Where are the temporary supports, the scaffolds, the partial walls, the messy phases you'd expect in a project that size? In many images, the station appears complete in a single moment, like it simply arrives in the record as a finished object. And if it was such a triumph, why do so many captions feel strangely brief, as if the building's scale doesn't deserve a detailed description? The scale problem starts at ground level. Look at the doors. Not the main arch, the side doors. They often appear tall enough for carts to pass through, even when they're labeled as staff entrances. Staircases are wide and shallow, built for heavy foot traffic. Waiting rooms, in surviving floor plans, look oversized compared to the populations of some towns at the time. Even the furniture in certain interior photos feels small against the volumes of the rooms. Benches sit under ceilings that seem designed to hold heat and sound in a controlled way. Ticket windows look like small cutouts in thick masonry, more like a fortress than a storefront. The question isn't whether builders could make big things. It's why these features appear functional at a scale that suggests usage patterns we don't fully see in the surrounding context. Then you notice the materials. In close-up photographs, some station walls show stone blocks that appear consistently cut, with tight joints. The repetition looks industrial. In some places, the ornamentation is not random decoration. It's modular. Patterns repeat across arches and cornices as if they were produced from standardized templates, then assembled. You can call it craftsmanship, and maybe it is, but it raises another question. If this level of standardization existed, why is the supporting manufacturing story so faint? Where are the quarries, the cutting facilities, the transport logs, the procurement records that match the volume of material implied by these buildings? Once you notice it in one place, it becomes harder to ignore elsewhere. You start seeing the same station language across different regions. Enormous central arches, symmetrical wings, tall windows stacked in repeating rows, and domes or tower elements that look more ceremonial than necessary. Some stations resemble palaces. Others resemble courthouses. A few resemble something older than rail itself, as if the tracks were laid up to an existing monument. And then the Tartaria label enters the conversation, not as an answer, but as a tag people use to group the feeling these places give off. A sense that the architecture doesn't match the timeline it's assigned. Not proof, just a pattern that keeps showing up. In some cities, the station sits beside older-looking masonry buildings with similar arches and stonework. In others, the station is the only structure of its kind, surrounded by simpler construction. Either way, the station tends to dominate the landscape. If these were built quickly during rail booms, Why do they often appear stylistically complete, like they belong to a longer architectural tradition? The archive doesn't settle it, complicates it. You can find dates. You can find inauguration announcements. You can find postcards. But when you look for the deeper layer, engineering drafts, procurement details, construction photographs that show progress, there's often less than you'd expect. Some plans survive as clean diagrams, not working drawings. Some reports speak in broad totals, not itemized realities. In certain cases, the same building is described differently across different sources, as if the authors weren't looking at the same object. This doesn't mean someone is hiding anything. Archives lose things. Fires happen. Offices relocate. Catalogs get simplified. But what's missing here is consistency. Big projects usually generate big paper. These stations sometimes feel like they generated less paper than smaller, more ordinary buildings built in the same era. Then there's the strange habit of renaming. A station that appears in early sources under one name shows up later under another. A terminal becomes a depot. A grand hall becomes a renovated lobby. The words shift, and with them the implied history shifts too. And the more you track those shifts, the more you find that the station's early identity becomes harder to pin down, even as the building remains physically present. At some point, the record seems to change tone. Early images focus on the grandeur, the facade, the arches. Later images focus on functionality. Platforms, signage, schedules. The station becomes background. In some places, parts of the structure are removed, simplified, or covered. Ornament is stripped. Windows are blocked. Domes disappear from skylines without much explanation beyond modernization, or fire safety, or war repairs. That may all be true, but it creates a disappearance event that's easy to miss. Not a single moment, but a transition where these stations stop being described as remarkable, even when they still look remarkable. The clean break isn't only architectural, it's documentary. After a certain point, the story becomes easier. The stations become Victorian, Beaux-Arts, Revival, labels that organize the discomfort into categories. And the question becomes quiet and persistent. What kind of historical shift turns a monumental object into something ordinary in the record? The most unsettling part is how often people are missing from the images. Stations designed for crowds are frequently photographed with empty halls. Platforms stretch into the distance with only a few figures. Vast waiting rooms hold scattered passengers, like the building was prepared for a volume of movement that isn't captured. Maybe it's the exposure time. Maybe photographers preferred clean compositions. Maybe the crowd was elsewhere. But the emptiness keeps returning. And it raises a human question, not an architectural one. If these spaces were built to manage mass flow, where is the evidence of that flow at the moment the camera was there? And if the flow existed, why does it feel under-recorded compared to the scale of the infrastructure? This is where impossible to build in the 1800s becomes less of a claim and more of a pressure point. Because the stations do exist. The stone exists. The arches exist. The engineering exists. The question is not whether people could build impressive things. They did. The question is why some of these stations look like they were designed from a mature template, repeatable, standardized, confident, while the surrounding documentation feels thin, inconsistent, or strangely indirect. If a project is truly new, it usually leaves a trail of problems. Cost overruns, material shortages, structural revisions, public arguments, contractor disputes, delays, failures, fixes. In some station histories, you find that. In others, the story reads like a smooth legend. Planned, built, opened, celebrated. As if friction wasn't part of the process. So the uncomfortable questions sit in the gaps. Were these stations built exactly when we're told? Or were they completed, adapted, or repurposed from something already standing? If they were built from scratch, why do so many appear to share the same design language across distant regions, like a system rather than a local project? If the paper trail is incomplete, what else would we expect to be missing from the same period? And when later eras simplify, rename, or remodel these buildings, are they improving them or translating them into something easier to explain? There's no clean ending to this, because the objects stay still while the story around them keeps moving. A station can outlive its paperwork, can outlive its architects. It can even outlive the reason it was built at that scale. And when that happens, history tends to do something subtle. It stops explaining the building and starts explaining around it. If you've noticed a station like this where you live, or you found an early photo that doesn't match the official timeline, you can leave it in the comments. And if you want to stay close to this investigation, you can like the video and subscribe.